our foundation is to create like the most comfortable, longest lasting custom fit to you products. It's so many little pieces that all fit together, and like the industrial design of the product has to actually match the internal portion of the ear in certain ways so that the ear tip has space to be able to conform and mold to different portions of the ear. And it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of testing and ergonomic testing.
Today we talk about the new frontier of earbuds that adapt and fit your unique ear shape.
This is Design-ERS, an irreverent podcast for unconventional makers.
Hey, Michael.
How you guys doing?
Doing awesome. How's your day going?
It's good. It's good. So far, it's only 10, so it's still pretty early here. I know it's a little later in Portugal, Lisbon. So it's not too bad yet.
It's 6 p.m. here.
It's good. You're chilling. We're working. Today is election day here. So I don't know for you guys, at least at Facebook is a no meeting day. So it's a little bit easier for people to go out and vote. I think it's a nice thing to do. How about you guys? How about you, Michael?
It's about the same. I just installed the poll tracking widget on my phone, so I have like constant percentage sway, so I can keep track of it without having to sit and watch the news all day, which I think will keep me a little focused on work. But yeah, it's definitely. I was just walking around in San Francisco, and there's already people lining up at polling places to make sure they're good to go. So it's going to be big.
We got a super special guest as always. Today we got Michael, and the reason we invited him is that earphones are definitely one of the most coveted tech gadgets of our era. You might not tell those gadgets are a status symbol, but it definitely speaks a lot about your personality and the kind of person that you are. So we wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to talk about this product and how you design this product. So we have the pleasure to host Michael today, that is a person that have dedicated a long time to sound product, the creation and launch of them.
Thanks for having me, you guys. It's an honor. I'm really excited to see how this goes. I'm an industrial designer. I've been working at Logitech my whole career. I started as an intern in college, all the way through being a contractor to being full-time hire industrial designer. So I've worked a long time on a lot of in-ear audio products. Pretty much everything with the speaker has been my like kind of drive. So I'm a heavily like human factors, anthropometrics based designer, a lot of like ergonomics and user testing and stuff like that. It's exciting. I'm still always interested in it. Every day's still good because I work in a team that is constantly doing new development, new directions, small businesses that turn into large businesses. So I've been pretty lucky at Logitech to kind of keep in this what we call a seed group, which is like small burgeoning businesses within a larger, corporate environment. So I kind of get that consultancy style a little bit. I'm not like as structured as a lot of other groups tend to be, which has been, perfect for me.
Michael, please, could we talk about this crazy market about headphones and everything that's related nowadays? I would say it's a great change in just a few years that we are switching into in-ear headphones that ultimately nowadays I think they are an extension of our personality. But what I felt most concerned as a designer is the context of use. So I'm so curious to know more about what kind of personalized product experience these new headphones want to offer, in your opinion?
I feel like we're in the heat of the moment with earbuds and headphones right now. Like the technology has grown so crazy fast, so quickly that, I remember only a few years ago, I was working on like a corded together Bluetooth cable that was like pretty revolutionary at the time. And then all of a sudden I'm on completely true wireless, micro true wireless, custom fit true wireless, in-ear monitors, all over the place. But I think it's an area where it still has its sort of like defined groups, but the middle has grown a lot more. So there's still very low end headphones that sound like low end headphones. And then there's very high end headphones, which luckily I work for a company that makes very high end headphones. So I've been a little spoiled with my audio quality since I started. But like the middle grounds has grown so much and so aggressively that like the quality you're getting from a $200 pair of headphones is crazy compared to what you were getting, you know, a few years ago, especially a $200 true wireless, $250 true wireless pair of headphones. You know, 3 or 4 years ago, you were looking at paying $300-$400 and you were still getting something that was kind of akin to something that costs like $40 or $50 if you plugged it into your phone. I think that this area is growing. It's growing really nicely, and it's starting to segment itself really nicely as well. So Logitech owns another company called Jaybird, which I worked with just for a little while a couple of years ago, and they are like running headphones, athlete headphones, and they're wild, and they've cornered this section of a market that is really specific to exactly what they do, and that's kind of what I see a lot of things growing as the earbud space kind of changes. Is like there's definitely a section of companies and products that are really specific to one thing, and then there's a bunch of other like implementation and features and product features that grow from there, and a lot of other kind of like middle range, not like ultra specific for a single use case. And then even outside of that, you get into like audiophile quality, which is like the UE CSX, UE Pro line of basically what artists wear on stage when they're performing or in the studio when they're recording. So to me, it seems like the market's stretching itself out in a way where like all these voids are being filled with like really, really nice features, and everyone has to kind of step their game up to play, which is an area I always love being in, because I want to push the tech. I want to push what's possible when it comes to like, you know, the chipset and the size and the drivers and the sound range and the acoustic range you get and stuff like that.
I wanted to ask you the curiosity of where are you most interested in put sections on, but you already answered me, so it's perfect.
My biggest interest always, like, I don't know if this is just the industrial designer in me, is like, I want it to be smaller. Like everything can be, what is the tiniest smaller I can get? Smaller. But with acoustics, you run into this balance of like driver versus size is a really big deal. So like we have a 10 millimeter driver in the UEFITs, and we have it because it produces like an amazing amount of bass. And if we went smaller, we lose that bass. So it's like this weird balance of everything can be smaller, but I still have to have this one thing because it has to produce this amount of noise. So for me, I always want everything to be smaller. And then if we can make it smaller, I can always design the housing bigger, but it doesn't constrain me to like trying to, you know, shrink wrap around something large.
I actually have to say that I own the Ultimate Ears Boom. And that piece of tech is really small for the quality that I had. So good job, Michael. Good job.
I've got one sitting right here on the other side of the table.
Good job.
I'm thinking about the earbuds. It's kind of like a personality type as well. Or whether you prefer to be kind of almost hugged by those, like the old style, like my dad used to have, or whether you might be more like a sporty personality that runs, and then they might want to have the in-ear because they fit better, you don't lose them, they're lighter. And I also see that one, not only a part of the quality that you can develop, but what kind of personality you are, what kind of persona, and how you deal with your audio needs and music needs. That's probably bigger than that, right?
Part of it is definitely audio quality and audio like noise and bass and amount of speakers and sound and everything you can get. But another thing that's always like interested me with it, and we've talked about a lot when I was doing a lot of like user testing and kind of working with the team to develop like what this product is and what shape it is and stuff like that, is how much your headphone says about what you want to do and how you want to interact with people. Like to me, having like when I have my very big headphones on, which, you know, I still have them, Ultimate Ears made them for a little bit, they're at my desk, that says to everybody, like, don't talk to me. I'm sitting here, I'm working. Like, to me, that is a signal for me showing you that like I am in the zone. Please don't bother me. Like, send me a message on Slack, but like don't tap my shoulder or anything like that. And then if I have a smaller pair of earbuds in that's less noticeable, I feel like people come up and interact with me a lot more. But it's almost as if it's like a beacon to people of like, this is me working. But for me, you know, I'm not using them for audio quality. I'm using them for that kind of specific reason.
Now I'm super curious to ask you more about the product development experience that how's changed during the pandemic, because you don't need now to have your big headphones to say mute in a way, right? So how how these things are working for a designer like you at designing these kind of softwares, these kind of products.
So I think that there's kind of a couple things, and it's sort of, I don't know if I'm jumping ahead in this conversation, but it's sort of like why we made UEFITs, and it's to create a product that's like comfortable all day. So for a long time, my over-ear headphones were the most comfortable thing I could wear for 15 hours at a time, and I would, and then I went to like in-ear headphones, and I could get like 3, maybe 4 hours before like my ears started hurting a little bit. But like there was definitely a timeline in the amount of time I could wear an over-ear headphone. So when I'm at home, like I often don't wear headphones unless I'm, I guess, like on a call or listening to music or whatever. I prefer to take calls with them, and you know, I have UEFITs and they fit very, very nicely to me, or I use other UE custom-made products. But I think it definitely has a little bit of a transition in the environment and the space that you're in. In an office, you want something that shows that you're listening to music or shows that you're busy, or like maybe you don't want to be bothered. But at home, you can listen to music on your UE boom as loud as you want. And if you live with a bunch of other people, though, like I live with my girlfriend, and I have to wear headphones because I don't want like to be listening to my meetings all day super loud and stuff like that. So it actually is kind of like a privacy even within my own space kind of a thing.
That's amazing. I mean, literally everyone is in his own, let's say, house, especially now with remote working and personality again and preferences. I love the story that you told about, if you have the big headphones, it's like, don't talk to me, I'm immersed. And probably the in-ears might be, to some extent, a little bit more casual, or gives like a different message. That's something I've never thought about it, but now that you mention it is like that, because I do realize some people are even buying those when we used to be in the office, or now that we're working from home, those kind of traffic lights that you put on your desk, like do not disturb, that when you press it, it turns red. So people know like, oh yeah, don't bother me, don't ask me question, I'm zoning, I'm on my focus. So that's a really interesting nuance that you mentioned. But just because you introduce it, and let's talk a little bit about this product that is really intriguing. So the UEFIT is the latest product you guys launched as part of Logitech, as you said, a spin-off of Logitech, and it is a new generation of earbuds that are in-ears. And I would say the most interesting feature that I was really curious about is the customization of how they fit into the ear. So this is something that I've never heard before. I know there might be little different plugs, right, or tips that you can use to adjust even from the competition. But you guys are able now to offer almost like a mold of the ear, and that has been kind of your strategy for quite a long time. So can you tell us a little bit more about this product and tell us even the things that we don't know yet?
UEFIT is our product, and like, you know, as the name says, like our foundation is to create like the most comfortable, longest lasting custom fit to you product. So like we set out to create this fit and this comfort in a level that no one else has ever done it. And we did, I think we did a great job. Like, I'll wait for the reviews to come through, but I've been wearing them for months, and I really enjoy them. I like that it's a soft material it's always a little bit squishy, even once it's been molded to your ear. But we kind of based it on our heritage. Like for 25 years, Ultimate Ears has made custom in-ear monitors for performing artists and audiophiles and, you know, music lovers and anybody who wanted like the highest quality audio that you could get. And with the way that process was done, you either had to go to a doctor and get your ears molded, or you had to get an ear scan, or, you know, we got to the point where we were able to send you a kit and you could mold it in your ear and send it back to us. And then we would make the product and then send it to you. And while that like was a huge step forward and like has made amazing strides in the direction of being able to get this product out to more people who don't either have the ability or don't want to travel to like go through the extra steps of getting a custom made headphone, the UEFIT does that in 60 seconds. And it's a process that we put a lot of time into, we put a lot of development into, but like that's, to me, it's the future of headphones, because you can say that you have a custom fit if you have 3 ear tip sizes, but it's never perfect. Like it's never absolutely custom. It's, you know, different than maybe the person sitting next to you. And it has a little bit of conformity to the inside of your ear, but it's not going to match and conform all of these angles and all of this direction and all of this level of sealing that we're able to do with this ear tip.
I couldn't agree more, Michael, because actually now that I'm thinking of, the reason I was skeptical of buying in-ear headphones was just the fitting. Because I used to wear my big headphones when I need to focus on work or stuff. But when I'm using like in a commute or doing sports, I was just focusing on get the right fit for the ear. So I'm super excited to ask you more about what was your creative process to ensure this perfect fit in the EU, and how is going to change during the next steps or next iterations, in your opinion?
That's a big question. The process
we want more than just what is on the website, Mike.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. The process for developing the tip is like years and years in the making. So I guess it kind of starts, to me, it starts with Ultimate Ears and Rebels. We bought this company called Rebels, and they brought like their patented technology, and this is just like I think like the second generation, the refinement of what their product is into something that they've helped build into this amazing ear tip. And it's totally one of those things that's like truly a team effort. So like we have user researchers, ergonomic researchers, industrial designers, engineers, material engineers, and it's this very big push and pull and back and forth, and it's so many little pieces that all fit together, and like the industrial design of the product has to actually match the internal portion of the ear in certain ways so that the ear tip has space to be able to conform and mold to different portions of the ear. And it was a lot of trial and error and a lot of testing and ergonomic testing and bothering every single person at Logitech who would let us mold something in their ear, and then scanning that into 3D and then comparing that to a 3D scan of that person's ear, and just kind of dialing in from what the work that we had done before was to something even further and even more precise. And luckily it's part of a company where we were scanning people's ears for custom made headphones for a while. So there were people within the company where we had 3D scans of the inside of their ear. We had 3D scans of their IEMs. We had 3D scans of their molded ear tips. Like, we were able to compare so many different levels of the product and map so many different points to be able to kind of figure out like what areas needed a little bit of push, a little bit of pull, like where we needed to kind of adjust our size. And the whole goal was to get not only something that was comfortable and fit in your ear, but also it had to seal. So it had to create passive isolation, completely perfect seal in your ear canal. And that by itself is an incredibly hard thing to do, as I've come to learn, because if there's any air gap, all of that bass goes away. All of these like great sounds that you want go away.
I have a great question that probably is harder than the one before. That is, what's the biggest failure that you are most proud of?
The biggest failure, for me, it's like all about challenges, right? Like the biggest challenge that like had the most possibility for failure, I guess, is that geometry of the product and the fit, and how every single ear is different. And while the ear tip itself is moldable, the product itself isn't moldable, you know, like the earbud, the driver, the housing, the battery. So we had to work really hard together to create a product that had enough moldability and enough custom fit and enough, you know, possibility of deformation within the ear, but it still had to wrap around a battery and a 10mm driver and, you know, UV lights and all these technical elements to be able to fit together. And then on top of that, all those things had to come together in a way where it sat really comfortably in the ear in a very specific area and didn't make contact with different parts of your ear and stuff like that. And that was the biggest thing. Like that was where I could see the biggest possibility of failure happening. And it was, you know, it was 2 years, I think, of just dialing in and small adjustments, and then, you know, getting a prototype and then getting another prototype and then adjusting and drawing on people's ears with Sharpies and hand filing things till they fit, to like get shape and stuff. That's what I would say is that, you know, that to me, the biggest challenge, or, you know, like you said, the biggest area for failure.
I see a thread in here. Like during our last episode, we did interview Giovanni Di Napoli, that was doing something completely different in healthcare. fighting cancer with a pill cam, something that you can swallow and tracks and takes images of your inner body to then connect with doctors. But the connection I would like to make is that a lot of our listeners are asking us, okay, how do you simplify and how different it is, the creative process, when a lot of people are involved? And I think the thread that I'm seeing, and please, Michael, correct me if I'm wrong, is that especially, as you said, when there is a lot of parties involved. You mentioned a ton of engineers, there are material, there is design, product design, industrial design to be involved. I see the thread is make sure that you start with your mission, with your goal, that I believe for UEFIT was literally giving this extremely customized experience, the best possible experience and being the most customized experience, and then the definition of a clear problem statement. In your case, the challenge was we want to make sure that people get the mold and the best mold without having to go through someone, a technician, or get through the process. So you pretty much, you shortened, you trimmed the process of getting the customization in your ear right away. So that's how simplified the creative process was. And then I can imagine how complex it was to make it happen. Is that the process that you guys followed? And how important is that back-end part that many people cannot see?
I think it's super important. So yeah, when we started, like, we kind of set out to create like the seamless, minimal, personal product, and we wanted it to be personal. We want it to fit exactly to you. It has to be custom fit. You know, that's kind of our thing. Like, that's what we set out to do the most. But a huge step of that was creating a seamless setup process, and by removing any setup, any problem, you know, removing all of the having to go to an audiologist, but it actually even removes the trying on different size ear tips left and right. You know, when you get your normal pair of headphones, it comes with 6 different ear tips, small, medium, large, left and right, and you have to kind of decide, like, maybe I'm a small in one ear, maybe I'm a medium in another. Both of them don't quite fit, but we wanted to remove all of that doubt and fear that people have, especially with a product where when you put the ear tip in your ear and you hear it, it's done, and that's it. And you know, you can get another one that we have ear tips. We can help you if something goes wrong, but we found that it would give people a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety when they were doing a setup of something that they just spent $250 on, and all of a sudden it is permanent and it can't change again. You can't remold it. You know, it's not like a mouth guard. You can't heat it up and then re-bite into it or whatever. And that was a big part of it, even outside of the industrial design portion and the initial like penning of shape and stuff like that. It was that was where I saw a huge collaboration between like our UX team and our engineering team and the design, the industrial physical design side of it. It was just building this thing where you have to set it up yourself, and we need to help you feel confident in your decision and your action and your final outcome. And then we have to help you love it. And like, we have to give you a thing that you're going to love. And those are the hardest areas that I always deal with. And they're the thing that you don't really see yourself thinking about during the day, but like, you're striving to answer all of these things. And when you look back at it, you're like, man, that was why there was 500 hours of user research on an app to figure out if, you know, it should be this button or this button or this screen or this screen, and a lot of adjusting Figma back and forth, and, you know, the good fun of that like iteration.
It's a great ocean to swim on. It's like.
So for those that will be interested, let's say at least the younger audience, and there's a lot of curiosity, right? From especially from people from Europe or the people that are still in university here in the US, about understanding how does it feel to work in great companies that release a super sophisticated product. So again, we want to tell them that look, like the thread to create amazing and inspiring and revolutionary product is all about simplification. So have a clear mission, have a clear goal, and simplify the process to get there as much as possible. This is the thread that we are seeing, but be prepared to work in teams and be very open to, you know, challenge and feedback, because eventually it doesn't matter what your view is. At least that would be my kind of advice from what I've learned, is that you can come with a very prepared point of view and you have your perspective, but most of the time, if you need to get to a shared solution, you have to be ready to compromise and make sure that eventually you abide by what the product needs are. Michael, is there any other advice that you will share with let's say, our younger audience?
I think one of the things that I learned the most, like coming up as a designer, is like holding on to, I guess, what I call like the ethos, or like the personality of what the product is. And we do a lot of work with like prospective users and kind of like building that persona that you design to. But in 2 years working on that, like you've worked with your persona, you've got your industrial design shape, you've got your initial CAD and your first 3D print, and now you have to put stuff inside of it. And for me, that area right there where you need, as an industrial designer, and like, you know, I worked like with another design firm on this product, like it's not just mine. But it was a lot of us going back and forth, us working with engineering to actually make sure everything fits. And that's one of the things that like kind of constantly bothers me when I look at like Behance and look at like new portfolios, is like, yeah, this is really cool, but you can't have a PCB board that's as big as a toothpick. Like these things don't really work. And that's always been something that I focus really heavily on in my design, is like, what are the pieces that need to go inside of here? And how do I actually make these things come together in a really nice manner? And be able to, you know, switch at the drop of a hat. Like if we had a problem and all of a sudden we needed a 15 millimeter driver in this product, like I had to be ready to like, I have to change this needs to change here, this thing has to grow, like everything still has to come together. Otherwise you get like what do they call it? A camel. Like everything's a little piece from something else, and it works great, but like aesthetically, it's really not that cool when you're finished. But for young designers, that's something that I always like try and point out is, you know, is it realistic? You can always push, you know, 20%, but like you're not going to cut 60% off of the size of something and produce it in a year, unless you're, you know, making your own chip and batteries and stuff like that. But it's definitely like a shared balance between everybody on the team.
That's super interesting to hear, Michael. At this point, I would love to asking you our signature question, because we are getting into a really specific field of the design topic trends with the new generations. And nowadays, from your experience and from what you see for the future, what is your definition of design?
Design has always been about solving specific problems in a way that creates like a really aesthetically pleasing product melded with like a very seamless and simple experience for the user. So I've worked my entire career in kind of like one area of design, and I've worked on a lot of audio products, but like I've worked very heavily in stuff that goes in the ear. So and that's just where my interest is. And so like design for me it's always been about creating like a very aesthetically pleasing thing that like accents the geometries that it kind of lives in. So like in architecture, you know, you're building furniture to go within a space, and it has to look great in that space. Like with products, especially on body products, like you have to design it around the shape of the body and the shape of the, you know, for an earbud, it has to look good in the ear. If it's a giant disc, like it might look really cool in CAD on a table, but like on a person, it looks very aggressive. So, you know, the UEFIT, it sits at like a 33-degree angle, which is the angle of your inner tragic notch going upwards towards your ear. So it's not straight, but it actually fits with the geometry of the ear, and it sticks out in a way that like matches how ears stick out. Like it's this very, very tight balance. But like that to me, that is kind of design as a whole. It's always like shown in these little areas where it looks good, but it also like looks really good when it's in use. I don't know if that really answers the question like perfectly, but those are my like bullet points of design, I guess.
If you're worried about your answer, you're wrong, man, because it's amazing. Actually, it's if it's good, okay, but if it's good and it's used, you nailed it. You won. You're winning. That's it. That's great.
I think one point I'd like to discuss is that people underestimate most of the time what it takes to create those highly customized products and how complicated bespoke design is. Like for all the people listening to us, to be honest, and even at least for me, you just mentioned a ton of terms and things about how we listen to like music and sound, things about the ear, the design of the ear, that nobody even know about it or doesn't even realize till you actually experience it, right? The way you were talking about, the way you can put the tips on and close your ear, the way it's designed, and the way it literally shoots the sound inside your ear. So creating such a bespoke product, it takes a lot. I always make the analogy with the tailoring. If you've never tried to have like a tailored t-shirt, maybe it's a little bit more common and much more easier than design the UEFIT for sure. But I remember the first time in Italy, I was getting one for, I don't know if it was like a wedding or something. And I was trying and I was going through the process of getting all my sizing. I could tell those people knew all the fine details that was making all the difference. So just to give an example, this lady was literally telling me, okay, I'm gonna make you this sleeve a little bit longer because you always keep your elbow like 10 degrees flex. So if I make it this, it's gonna be more comfortable for you. And of course, we don't have, for example, the same length for our legs. So they were making sure that they were fitting and they were looking nice with both shoes on. So there is a lot of things that we don't even know and we don't even perceive that goes into creating a totally bespoke product. And that's the reason why eventually it's so difficult to come out with something that is bespoke, but also sounds like super innovative. So that's the question I have for Michael. Like, let's use the iPhone as an analogy. The most usual comment that you get when something new like an iPhone comes out is, oh, but it's very similar to the previous one. Oh, I don't see the big reveal, right? I don't see the big booming feature that makes it different. But there's a lot of studies like the S-curve that define how much effort you need to put into a product to create a certain level of innovation, a certain level of advancement in that technology. And that is very real. So people will need to understand a little bit more that there is a lot of work in customization and product innovation and product development, even to get something that might look just a little faster or a little bit more customized. So this is what we don't show, how the sausage is made.
And it's definitely, I mean, I think we kind of talked about this, or I was trying to get to it a little bit, like in the headphone space. 5 years ago you were in like one area and that was pretty cool, but it's sped up and transitioned so fast that just like phones, like we're getting to the point where it's like, oh cool, it was 12 megapixels, now it's 13, like awesome, I need to have it. Or like it has 2 cameras, now it has 4 cameras, like. And people, I think, are at this level where you're almost like a little bit spoiled because, like, in the last 10 years, like I went from having like a slide up Nokia phone to an iPhone, and it was like literally as fast as my first computer. And it's, that was like 10 years of speed, and it's been like a seamless transition. And I think like audio products and a lot of consumer electronics run into that same thing where it's these little tiny steps, and unless there's like a huge leap, no one notices the little bits. It comes down a lot to the aesthetics and to the design and what the product looks like and how it fits, and how it fits in your ear, and how do you press a button, how many features does it have, and you run into that kind of like feature creep and stuff like that. And I mean, that's where I think UEFIT did a great thing, is like we jumped out. Like no one else has a product that does what this does at the level that it does, and the quality that we can provide a user. And I'm always wondering, like, who's going to come out with the next? What's the next thing? Like, what's the next big one? We had a company come out, they're like tiny white earbud, and it's like everyone hated it, and then it like changed the game. And it's those kind of little or big changes that people grab onto, and whether or not they don't like it at the beginning, there's like this change into like, oh no, actually it does great, it does all these things, like I love it for all these different reasons. And I think headphones and like cell phones actually have a pretty like strong tie together, just because like for me they've just been two things that have been like speeding up so fast, and I just pay attention to both of those pretty closely.
So for everyone that is interested, you can Google UEFIT and learn more about the product. I believe the website is custom.ultimateears.com.
We will post the link, of course, in the description.
I personally really also love the color palette that you guys chose. And I think you got I don't know if the right, what is the right name of that color, the purplish that you're wearing?
It is, it's called Dawn.
Nice. It's a really subtle color. I love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
For your time. I think that's a phenomenal product. It really shows an insane amount of work. I'm personally really curious to try it on. So, well, thanks again, and
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Have a nice one.
have a good rest of your day. Bye, guys. Ciao.
Ciao.